welcome to Bex Reads. My name's Bex, and this is the show where I share strange and fascinating curiosities of the written word. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. But once he got here, what did he do? I'm sorry to say, you've been lied to. In A People's History of the United States, Howard Zinn introduced the world to the unspoken history of our country. In his follow-up book, Voices of a People's History, he shared the actual historical documents he referenced for his book. In it, we find the actual diary of Christopher Columbus. And to quote the book directly, "There is no more glaring distortion in the history learned by generations of Americans in textbooks, in schools, or in pop culture than in the story of Christopher Columbus. He is universally portrayed as a heroic figure, a brave adventurer, a skilled seaman, who crossed the ocean not knowing what he would find and stumbled on an unknown continent. All that is true, but what is missing from that story is that when he landed in the Bahama Islands, Columbus and his men, greeted by peaceful and generous natives, set out on a ruthless quest for gold that led to enslavement, misery, and death for that population. Profit was the driving force behind Columbus's expedition and behind his actions after he landed. His expedition had been financed by the King and Queen of Spain with the hope that crossing the ocean would bring him the gold and spices of Asia. He never arrived in Asia, because although he knew the world was round, he thought the circumference of the earth was smaller than it really was. But 1/4 of the way to Asia, he came unexpectedly on land. The only diary of the first voyage that we have is one transcribed by Bartolome de las Casas in the 1530s. It should be noted that Las Casas is sometimes paraphrasing rather than quoting Columbus, and that Columbus often refers to himself in the third person or impersonally as the Admiral in his own writing. Dick. October 11th, 1492. A Tuesday. I'm going to skip a bit through the beginning here and start, at 2 hours after midnight, the land appeared, from which they were about 2 leagues distant. They hauled down all the sails and kept only the trio, which is the main sail without bonnets, and jogged on and off, passing time until daylight Friday, when they reached an islet of the Lacayos. Soon they saw naked people, and the admiral went ashore in the armed launch. And Martin Alonso Pinzon and his brother Vicente Anes was captain of the Nina. The admiral brought out the royal banner and the captain's 2 flags with the green cross, which the admiral carried on all the ships as a standard, with an F and a Y, for King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, of course. Thus put ashore, they saw very green trees and many ponds and fruits of various kinds. The admiral called to the 2 captains and to the others who had jumped ashore to Rodrigo de Escobedo, the escrivano clerk of the whole fleet, and to Rodrigo Sanchez de Segovia. Sorry, I'm very white. And he said that they should be witnesses that in the presence of all he would take, as in fact he did take, possession of said island for the king and for the queen, his lords, making the declarations that were required and which at more length are contained in the testimonials made there in writing. Soon many people of the island gathered there. What follows are the very words of the admiral in his book about his voyage to and discovery of these Indies. He says, in order that they would be friendly to us, because I recognize that they were people who were better freed and converted to our holy faith by love than force. To some of them I gave red caps, and glass beads, which they put on their chests. Oh, right. And they, right, because it's like a necklace. Got it. And many other things of small value, in which they took so much pleasure and became so much our friends that it was marvel. Later they came swimming to the ship's launches where we were, and brought us parrots and cotton thread, in balls and javelins and many other things, and they traded them to us for other things which we gave them, such as small glass beads and bells. In some they took everything and gave of what they had willingly. But it seemed to me that they were people very poor in everything. All of them go around as naked as their mother bore them, and the women also. And all those that I saw were young people, for none did I see of more than 30 years of age. They were all very well formed, with handsome bodies and good faces. Their hair coarse, almost like the tail of a horse, and short. They wear their hair down over their eyebrows, except for a little in the back which they wear long and never cut. Some of them paint themselves with black, and they are of the color of the Canarians. Neither black nor white, and some of them paint themselves with white, and some of them are with red, some of them with whatever they find, and some of them paint their faces, and some of them their whole body, some of them only their eyes, some of them only the nose. They do not carry arms, nor are they acquainted with them, because I showed them swords, and they took them by the edge, and through ignorance cut themselves. Their javelins are shafts without iron, and some of them have at the end fish teeth, and other such things. All of them alike are of good sized stature, and carry themselves well. I saw some who had marks of wounds on their bodies, and I made signs to them asking what they were, and they showed me how people from other islands nearly came and tried to take them, and how they defended themselves. And I believed, and believe, that they come here from terra firma to take them by capture. They should be good and intelligent servants, for I see that they say very quickly everything that is said to them, and I believe they would become Christians very easily, for it seemed to me that they had no religion. Our Lord pleasing, at the time of my departure I will take 6 of them from here to your highness, in order that they may learn to speak. No animal of any kind did I see on this island except parrots. All are the Admiral's words. October 13th, 1492, a Saturday. As soon as it dawned, many of these people came to the beach, all young, as I have said, and all of good stature, very handsome people, with their hair not curly, but straight and coarse like horsehair, and all of them very wide in the forehead and head, more so than any other race that I have ever seen. And their eyes are very handsome and not small, and none of them are black, but of the color of the Canary Islands. He already said that. Nor should anything else be expected, since this island is on an east-west line in the island of Hierro in the Canaries. All alike have very straight legs and no belly, but are very well formed. They came to the ship with dugouts, or canoes, that are made from the trunk of one tree, like a long boat, and all of one piece, and worked marvelously in the fashion of the land, and so big in that some of them 40 or 45 men came, and others smaller, down to some in which one man came alone. They row with a paddle like that of a baker, and go marvelously. And if it capsizes on them, they throw themselves in the water, they right and empty it with calabashes, hollowed out gourds, and then they carry on. They brought balls of spun cotton, and parrots and javelins, and other little things that would be tiresome to write down. And they gave everything for anything that was given to them. I was attentive and labored to find out if there was any gold, and I saw that some of them wore a little piece hung in a hole that they have in their noses. And by signs I was able to understand that, going to the south and rounding the island to the south, there was a king who had large vessels of gold, and had very much gold. I strove to get them to go there, and later saw that they had no intention of going. I decided to wait until the afternoon of the morrow and then depart to the southwest, for, as many of them showed me, they said there was land to the south and to the southwest and to the northwest, and that people from the northwest came to fight them many times. And so I will go to the southwest to seek gold and precious stones. This island is quite big and very flat, and with green trees and much water, and very large lake in the middle, and without any mountains, and all of it so green that it is a pleasure to look at. And these people are very gentle, and because of their desire to some of our things, and believing that nothing will be given to them without their giving something, and not having anything, they take what they can, and then throw themselves into the water to swim. But everything that they have, they give for anything given to them, and they traded even pieces for pieces of bowls and broken glass cups. And I even saw 16 balls of cotton given for 3 Portuguese copper coins. And in them was probably more than 24 pounds of spun cotton. This I had forbidden, and I did not let anyone take any of it, except that I had ordered it all taken for your highness, if it were in quantity. It grows here on the island, but because of the short time I could not declare this for sure. And also the gold that they wear hung in their noses originates here, but in order not to lose time I want to go see if I can find the island of Cipango. Now, since night had come, all the Indians went ashore in dugouts. October 14th, 1492, a Sunday. As soon as it dawned, I ordered the ship's boat and the launches of the caravels made ready and went northeast along the island in order to see what there was in the other part, which was the eastern part, and also to see the villages. And as soon as I saw 2 or 3, as well as people who all came to the beach calling to us and giving thanks to God. When they saw that I did not care to go to shore, they threw themselves into sea, swimming, and came to us. And we understood that they were asking us if we had come from the heavens. And one old man got into the ship's boat, and others in loud voices called to all the men and women, "Come see the men who came from the heavens." Many men came, and many women, each one with something, giving thanks to God, throwing themselves on the ground, and they raised their hands to heaven. And afterward they called to us in loud voices to come ashore. And I bestirred myself this morning to see all of this, so I could give an account of everything to your highnesses, and also to see where a fort could be made. And I saw a piece of land formed like an island, although it was not one, on which there were 6 houses. This piece of land in 2 days might be cut off to make an island, although I do not see this to be necessary, since these people are very naive about weapons, as your highnesses will see from 7 that I caused to be taken in order to carry them away to you, and to learn our language, and to return them. Except that, whenever your highnesses may command, all of them can be taken to Castile, or held captive in the same island, because 50 men of all of them could be held in subjection, and can be made to do whatever you might wish. And later, near the groves of trees, the most beautiful that I ever saw, with their leaves as green as those of Castile in the months of April and May, and lots of water, I looked over the whole of that harbor, and afterward returned to the ship and set sail. I saw so many islands that I did not know how to decide which one I would go to first. And those men I had taken told me by signs that they were not so many that they were numberless, and they named by their names more than 100. Finally, I looked for the largest, and to that one I decided to go, and so I am doing. It is about 5 leagues distant from this island of San Salvador, and the others of them, some more, some less. All are very flat, without mountains, and very fertile, and all populated, and they make war on one another, even though these men are very simple and very handsome in body. In recent years, the idealized, romanticized picture of Columbus has begun to be reconsidered, perhaps because the indigenous began to assert their importance as the original inhabitants of the American continent. With that reconsideration, Columbus has been seen in a different light, as the first representative of European imperialism in the Western Hemisphere, as a person who, while hypocritically presenting himself as a devout Christian, kidnapped, maimed, and killed the indigenous people of Hispaniola in pursuit of gold. The evidence for this revised view comes mainly from Bartolomé de las Casas, who was a contemporary of Columbus and who himself witnessed the scenes of Hispaniola, which he describes in the following passages. I'm going to switch here now to the actual people's history of the United States, because I think he does a really good job of summarizing Lacaussa's points as follows. Endless testimonies prove the mild and pacific temperament of the natives, but our work was to exasperate, ravage, kill, mangle, and destroy. Small wonder, then, if they tried to kill one of us now and then. The admiral, it is true, was blind to those who came after him, and he was so anxious to please the king that he committed irreparable crimes against the Indians. Lacausas tells how the Spaniards grew more conceited every day, and after a while refused to walk any distance. They rode the backs of Indians if they were in a hurry, or were carried on hammocks by Indians running in relays. In this case, they also had Indians carry large leaves to shade them from the sun, and others to fan them with goose wings. Total control led to total cruelty. The Spaniards thought nothing of knifing Indians by 10s and 20s and cutting off slices of them to test the sharpness of their blades. Lacausas tells how 2 of these so-called Christians met 2 Indian boys one day, each carrying a parrot. They took the parrots and, for fun, beheaded the boys. The Indians' attempts to defend themselves failed, and when they ran off into the hills, they were found and killed. So Lacausas reports, they suffered and died in the mines and other labors in desperate silence, knowing not a soul in the world to whom they could turn for help. Mountains are stripped from top to bottom and bottom to top. 1,000 times they dig, split rocks, move stones, and carry dirt on their backs to wash it in the rivers, while those who wash gold stay in the water all the time, and their backs bent so constantly it breaks them. And when water invades the mines, the most arduous task of all is to dry the mines by scooping up pans full of water and throwing it up outside. I thought I might let Howard Zinn wrap this one up, because I think he says it best. To emphasize the heroism of Columbus and his successors, as navigators and discoverers, and to de-emphasize their genocide is not a technical necessity but an ideological choice. It serves, unwittingly, to justify what was done. My point is not that we must, in telling history, accuse, judge, condemn Columbus in absentia. It is too late for that. It would be a useless scholarly exercise in morality. But the easy acceptance of atrocities as a deplorable but necessary price to pay for progress, that is still with us. One reason these atrocities are still with us is that we have learned to bury them in a mass of other facts, as radioactive wastes are buried in containers in the earth. We have learned to give them exactly the same portion of attention that teachers and writers often give them in the most respectable of classrooms and textbooks. This learned sense of moral proportion, coming from the apparent objectivity of scholar, is accepted more easily than when it comes from politicians at press conferences. It is therefore more deadly. The treatment of heroes and their victims, the quiet acceptance of consequence and murder in the name of progress, is only one aspect of a certain approach to history, in which the past is told from the point of view of governments, conquerors, diplomats, leaders. It is as if they, like Columbus, deserve universal acceptance, as if they, the founding fathers, Jackson, Lincoln, Wilson, Roosevelt, Kennedy, the leading members of Congress, the famous justices of the Supreme Court, represent the nation as a whole. The pretense is that there really is such a thing as the United States, subject to occasional conflicts and quarrels, but fundamentally a community of people with common interests. It is as if there really is a national interest represented in the Constitution, in territorial expansion, in the laws passed by Congress, the decisions of the courts, the development of capitalism, the culture of education, and the mass media. My viewpoint in telling the history of the United States is different, that we must not accept the memory of states as our own. Nations are not communities and never have been. The history of any country, presented as the history of a family, conceals fierce conflicts of interest between conquerors and conquered, masters and slaves, capitalists and workers, dominators and dominated in race and sex. In such a world of conflict, a world of victims and executioners, it is the job of thinking people, as Albert Camus suggested, not to be on the side of the executioners. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thanks so much for reading with me, and I do hope that these words meant something to you and that maybe you'll reflect on them. And of course, I hope you'll be back next time when we take more adventures. Why haven't I written an outro for this yet? Books! We're reading books!